And he just told me, don't leave yet, which means they're not set up yet. I just want you to see all this work that's going on. A lot of the stuff that actually happens at these things happens behind the scenes. It's kind of like when I'm overseas. A lot of the stuff you don't see, even though a lot of what we shoot is very gruesome, a lot of it is downright humorous. I'll give you a couple of examples. After I've been out there for a few weeks, inevitably they kind of figure out, this isn't just, I mean, this ain't CNN. We're not out there trying to get a Pulitzer Prize, trying to make them look bad. We're out there simply letting them tell their stories. And invariably in the middle of the night, somebody will come up to me on an observation post, and one of those young guys will say to me, as happened a couple of years ago, I was just getting ready to do Hannity. And one of the guys says to me, he says, hey, Colonel, some of the guys have been asking. Now, by the way, that's code word for there is a wager has been made. Some of the guys have been asking, how old are you? Now, I made a terrible mistake. They say in broadcasting, never ask a question to which you don't already know the answer, right? And so I made the mistake of saying to this 20-year-old youngster, I said, well, Smedley, how old do you think I am? And he looks at me through his night vision goggles. He looks me up and he looks me down. He says to me, I'll bet you're 50. At this point, I put my chest down into that flak jacket, put my chin down in that chin strap a little tighter. I looked at him thinking I was really going to impress him. I said, son, I'll have you know I'm 64. At that point, his jaw drops open. He says, 64? Hell, that's older than my grandfather. What are you doing here? No idea how old 50 looks to a youngster. Last year, a year ago this week, I was in Afghanistan with the 1st Battalion, 6th Marines. And this week, a year ago, the patrol we were on ran over an improvised explosive device. The lead vehicle in that had my cameraman in it. Oh, no. My vehicle's right behind it, and I caught the shot of it. The vehicle exploding. The 2 back doors of the Humvee were blown open, and my cameraman comes rolling out the right side. Another Marine goes out rolling out the left side. The gunner was blown out of the turret, and the vehicle is immediately engulfed in flames. And somehow or another, my cameraman, though he was already wounded and burned, jumped up, ran back up to the vehicle, jerked the door open, and dragged Sergeant Courtney Roush out of the vehicle. Woo! I've spent all my life in the company of heroes. My dad was a hero. All my uncles served in World War II. All my brothers served in the military. And yet, you never quite know when you're going to meet a hero. We all saw that on 9/11. There were people who were heroes that day who never thought of themselves as such. There were firemen and policemen and emergency responders, people aboard an airplane over Somerset, Pennsylvania. They proved themselves to be heroes. It was the moment called for them. Americans who responded in an extraordinary way. Chris Jackson saved Sergeant Courtney Roush's life. Later on, after Sergeant Roush was medevac, Corporal Figueroa was medevac, the U.S. Navy medical corpsmen, and Marines love their corpsmen because they save their lives. The corpsman comes up to Chris Jackson and says, Mr. Jackson, he said, we're going to get a helicopter in here to get you out. You got shrapnel wounds in your legs. You got burns on your hands and your face. You got a shrapnel wound in your scalp. And Jackson says, I can't go. The corpsman looks at him real carefully. He's checking his pupils to see whether he's got traumatic brain injury. He says, well, why can't you go? He says, pointing at me, he says, North's got the only camera. All the rest of my gear was blown up. And the corpsman is now really concerned that he's got a very serious concussion. He says, what do you mean you can't go? He's got the only camera. He says, Doc, let me tell you something. In every hour of Ollie North's videotape, there's 5 or 6 really good seconds. I can do better. He stayed. Somewhere, it may be on the ride home tonight, Could be tomorrow, it could be next week. There may be a hero you're standing right next to, and you don't know it until the need arises, and suddenly they rise to the occasion. My friends, it is for me a great privilege to be able to go out and let them tell their stories on Fox News Channel. It is something for which I'm very grateful. Obviously, that's giving us a good platform to do these kinds of things. I also have to say this, WABC, 77 New York, Fox News Channel, and all the rest of those corporate sponsors that make this possible have made it possible for youngsters like you've just seen to go to college. If it weren't for you, none of this would happen. And so, because you've sacrificed, you're heroes too. God bless you, and thank you very much for being here tonight.